This right here will arguably be the most important video I ever make on my YouTube channel, everybody. What's good, YouTube? It's Jay here, and today we're going to be making a Star Wars movie and show tier list. We're going to be putting them in what I think is the proper ranking for each of these Star Wars movies and shows. I know a lot of people are going to have mixed opinions on this topic, but I don't really care. This is just what I think, so let's just do this. Star Wars Episode 4. I'm going to put that A tier. I put it in A tier because at the end of the day, of the original trilogy, I think I historically have not rewatched this one the most. Great movie, but I just think that Episode 5 and arguably to some degree Episode 6, I just have enjoyed a little bit more because they're more fleshed out. This is the beginning of Star Wars. I think it's A. I'm like teeter-tottering between like A and S with this one. I love this movie, but I do think that the other elements of the original trilogy are just a tad bit better. I don't know, but that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. Of the original trilogy, I've seen the other two significantly more. So, Star Wars Episode 2. Everybody has their opinions on this one. Everybody has mixed opinions on this one. I don't think it's F. I don't think it's fully F. I definitely don't think it's A or B. I don't think it's F. The Battle of Geonosis really makes this movie good to some fair degree because that battle is really, really cool, honestly. But from a storytelling perspective, I might just slap it in D for now. It's like C or D for me. Now that I've become an adult and not a man-child, I don't know. Now that I've become more of an adult and less of a man-child, I respect the direction of a story. I don't really think any of this was Christian Hayden's fault or anything because he just read the lines and he was fed. So I mean, you know, I'm gonna leave it in D. We'll just leave it in D for now. Star Wars Rebels. Holy shit, I do not like this show, but it did do some pretty interesting story elements with Ahsoka because they have to shoehorn Ahsoka into literally everything now. It did some pretty interesting elements with Ahsoka and the whole Jedi post Order 66 era, but it's not. I don't know. They do so much different from the expanded universe. You know, the whole B-wing with the super laser on it. I don't know. The show did a lot that I didn't like. I'm gonna put it in C. I was not a fan of that show. What is this? Star Wars Resistance. Haven't seen it. I've seen the imagery for it. I have no interest in seeing it. Star Wars Rogue One. I'm putting this at A. I do not care what people say about this movie. I don't care if people say it's boring, if it lacked character development. The whole movie was Star Wars Suicide Squad. Fuck character development. I absolutely love this movie from head to toe. Only thing I thought was weird about it was the whole using the alien with the tentacles to read some of the characters' minds thing. That was kind of strange. But this movie was good to me. Honestly, it felt like a real Star Wars movie, something we haven't had in literal years. This movie was great. From the fight scenes to just the general storytelling of it all. I will admit, I have some criticisms about the final space battle because some of it just seemed a little illogical, you know, from combat to decisions that were made that could have made the battle easier. But that's the Empire War tactician in me kind of talking. From a visual perspective, this movie was phenomenal. I enjoyed it from start to finish. It felt like an actual Star Wars movie, and I will live and die on that. Episode 6. I'm going to throw it an S. I enjoyed this movie. Easily. Next to Episode 5. You know what? I'm actually gonna put this in. Yeah, I'm gonna make it an A. The Ewoks are kind of hit or miss for me. I mean, Star Wars inherently was supposed to be a kids movie from its conception, so it's hard for me to really say that little element of it was a little too kiddie for me. But either way, Episode 6 is phenomenal. Easily. I know I said that I put it above 4, and I still do in my head, but I both think they're A-tier movies. Bare minimum. Like, no less. They're both A-tier movies. I watch Episode 6 more than Episode 4, but either way, they're still A-tier movies in my opinion. And this one is going to shock probably some people. I'm throwing Episode 3 in A-tier as well. I loved Episode 3. It was the first Star Wars movie I actually went to go see live when I was 10, so I'm probably a little biased. But I enjoyed this movie. Now that I'm an adult, I've had time to really think on it, the decisions they made with it. the directions they went with Anakin, Darth Vader, the cast, and it all makes sense now that I'm an adult and have had time to actually look into the character development behind these characters. With all the, granted, with all the extra media that we've gotten on these characters, like movies and or books, comic books, etc., my opinions have obviously shifted because of that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I understand the movie now a lot better than I did when I was younger. But either way, I still enjoyed it from start to finish, honestly. It's a great movie. Great things happen that set it up for a lot of future media. I think it's great, honestly. Honestly, I think it's a phenomenal movie. If people still hate on it because it's a prequel, then they just are degenerates at this point. But that movie is great. Like, honestly, it's taking some time to actually learn upon the characters and do a little bit more studying, which I guess you could argue is a counter argument. I guess it's bad, you know, if you have to look for outside sources to make a movie better. I get that, but when you actually watch the movie itself, also, it's just not inherently a bad movie. Like, it's still a great Star Wars movie either way, whether or not you know a lot about these characters outside of this movie. It's still a great movie. So I mean, I'm gonna throw it an A. You can say what you want about it. Yeah. Solo. I have not seen this movie. It's on my list of things to watch, but it just never interested me. After I saw Rogue One and then Episode 8, I did not care for any other Star Wars movie because Episode 8 was so bad. The Clone Wars movie, I'm gonna give this a B because it set up the world for a lot. It wasn't like the world's best Star Wars movie, but it was a great step into something phenomenal. So, Star Wars: The Clone Wars. And now, I'm gonna put this in S, but hear me out. Hear me out. I don't think it's necessarily better than Episode 4, better than Episode 6, or anything I could put into the A category, but it's a TV show, so it's kind of hard to say, really. I don't think it's above the movies per se, but they did so much good with this series. Dave Filoni and all the other people who directed it, and forgive my ignorance if I don't know the names of some of those other people, that's just my own ignorance. This show did so much amazing stuff for world building and introduced us to a continuous Star Wars TV show, something we had never had before. We had the Clone Wars 2003 animated short movies and whatnot, but those weren't like full-fledged TV shows. This was something that gave us more to look at that was outside of the movies, outside of having to read books, having to play video games. This show was phenomenal from start to finish. I mean, first couple of seasons were a little rough, but once we really got things rolling, it turned out to be one of the best things in media history, in my opinion. So, Star Wars: The Clone Wars, easily S tier in terms of what it's done for the Star Wars world, for the television world, or whatever you want to call it. I don't think it's necessarily better than certain Star Wars movies, you could say, but those are movies versus an entire 7-season television show. So that's kind of hard to say, really. But for what it's done for the Star Wars community world, definitely S tier in my opinion. Empire Strikes Back. This is the best Star Wars movie to have ever existed. That's all I'm going to say. Great movie. Best movie, best Star Wars movie I have ever seen. This is the greatest movie of all time, in my opinion. Love it from start to finish. The story building, the characters, the world building, and the things you learn throughout the movie, the desperation that it gave you if you were a big Rebel fan like I was. This movie is the best Star Wars movie in existence. I don't even have much more to say about it than that. It's just the best Star Wars movie. Easily. Now we're gonna go into the sequel trilogy. Woohoo! Episode 7. I'm gonna put it in C. I don't think it was necessarily horrible. I don't think it was great. It was definitely clearly a carbon copy of Episode 4, and it had set up premise for a decent number of things to be built upon, but they never did that, unfortunately. But I think it's not a terrible movie. I can sit through it and not just hate my life. I will say this: the one thing about the sequel trilogy that it did wrong versus like Rogue One is the cinematography of it all. It doesn't even feel like a Star Wars movie. It feels like an action movie with lightsabers in it. All the original Star Wars movies, Rogue One, the prequels, they all have this element of cinematography, from camera angles to the way things are filmed, that feel Star Wars-y, you know? When they started trying new things in these new movies, I respect trying to try new things, don't get me wrong. But it just didn't work out, in my opinion. I don't know. I just didn't like the movie. I'm not gonna hate on J.J. Abrams' vision, because at the end of the day, everybody has their own vision for things. I'm not gonna be a hater, but I personally just was not a fan of this movie. So, Star Wars Episode 8. This is dog shit. This movie is terrible. I'm putting this in F. It is the worst thing. One of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. From the very beginning to the very end, it was too long for one. Two, the way they treated Luke and all the original characters in it were bad. The Mary Poppins scene with Leia just made me just silly. And then that whole space casino thing where we got into the whole animal rights, this, that, and the out of nowhere, it was just, I hated this movie. it deviated so hard from what they built in this movie, which I thought had a lot of promise. I'm gonna be honest. My opinions on episode 7, I think, are getting kind of dragged down by episode 8. So maybe this is more like a B- than a C. But this movie just was absolutely horrible. It didn't make any sense. It was bad. I can make an entire video on why I hate this movie. It's kind of hard to say it all in this one video. And I don't want to give a premise like I don't have an actual opinion. I'm just hating to be a hater. Like, no, I could write a fucking thesis paper on why this movie is absolutely horrible. I hated this movie. I will never watch it again. Mandalorian. I gotta put this either A, or it would be like an A- or just a straight up A. This show was good, honestly. It felt gritty. It felt dirty. It felt like kind of like my Star Wars content, really. And then we all know what happens at the end. Like, if they didn't do the whole reveal with a certain character, I won't give it any spoilers because I don't know how many people have still not fully seen the Mandalorian yet. But if it wasn't, the reveal they did for that certain character at the very end of the series is what just made it jump from like a B, B plus. Like, this is a great little Star Wars show, I mean, it's not like anything crazy, the whole focus on Grogu was just kind of whatever. I don't really care about cutesy characters like that, like a lot of people do. But, I thought the show initially was like, damn, this is pretty cool. This is great. I mean, it's Star Wars. It feels Star Wars. It's something to watch, When they did that character reveal at the end of the season, it skyrocketed my opinions of the show and the staff behind it all the way up to A. It might even be, it's an A+. I love the show after when they did that character reveal at the end of the series. It made me realize they really actually care about this show. It's not just a cash cow. It never really felt like a cash cow up until that point. It was very clear that this show was meant to be something gritty, something actually Star Warsy. The people who directed this clearly know what Star Wars is supposed to be like, not the other sequel trilogy nonsense. I like the show. It turned out to be freaking amazing, honestly. We've got Star Wars Episode 1. I don't want to disrespect this and put it in the same C tier category as Episode 7 because that's not true. I think we're going to throw it in B. I will say this. It had a lot of boring parts of the whole Coruscant scene, and I think boring in a sense to people that can't sit through that kind of stuff. I honestly didn't mind the whole political scene because I'm big on world building and learning about politics of Star Wars and whatnot. I don't personally mind that, but it definitely felt a little slow at times. But Duel of the Fates, that really just that gives the movie a lot of points. The Duel of the Fates soundtrack, the lightsaber battles are really good. I mean, the CGI is whatever. Who cares about that? Honestly, I don't criticize the movie because it uses too much CGI. Like, who gives a shit? As long as the story is good. But it's not a C tier movie in my opinion. It could definitely be toned down a little bit and cut some things that just are straight up not necessary in the movie. But I don't know. It's not the worst thing in the world. I definitely think it's better than Episode 2. I'm not going to disrespect it and put it in the same category as Rebels or Episode 7. No way. And then Episode 9. I guess I've pseudo seen it. It's a F. It's a F. That movie's dog shit. It's a F. That movie's not good. I've seen it. I've seen it in bits. After Episode 8, I just didn't have any faith in the series anymore, if we're going to be completely honest. So what I did see of this movie, the whole I'm Rey Skywalker thing, I'm like, there's no way I'm watching this, man. I was like, there's just no way I'm gonna be able to sit through this, because I hated the entirety of Episode 8. Like, there was not a single moment in that entire movie that I enjoyed. I sat through it, and I was just ready to leave the theater once. What was it? Once we got to the casino scene and Snoke died and all of that, I was ready to leave the theater. I didn't care for what happened in the end of the movie, honestly. Episode 9. I've never heard one good thing about that movie. I've seen a lot about it. I've read a lot of reviews on it. I've looked up basically the entirety of the story on it. The only thing I haven't physically done, I guess you could say, is sat through the entire movie from start to finish. But I've seen a majority of it. It's not a good movie. It's not something I want to make myself sit through. It has never looked good. Yeah. They didn't set that movie up to be great. From the rush productions to the redoing of the story to what happened with episode 8, I couldn't even bring myself to fully want to go. I didn't want to go pay to see this movie. I did not want to even put my money down on the table to go see this shit. I had no faith in it, and I was right. But I don't know. That's what I'm really gonna. This is the ranking that I'm gonna stick with for all of this stuff. I feel like I've personally expressed my opinions on all of this. Episode 4 might be able to go into S tier, honestly, because the more I think about it, that movie set up so much for the future premise of Star Wars. So, in order to make any changes, I have seen episode 5 and 6 more than 4, but thinking on it now, the amount of world building that this movie has done for the Star Wars universe, the fact that it was the very first Star Wars movie, the fact that it just set up so much potential for the future of Star Wars and other science fiction. Okay, yeah, we gotta move episode 4 to S tier. That was the one that was kind of teeter-totter in the back of my head, like, that might not be right. I know I said this is why I put it right here, but I still don't think that's right. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that of my opinions on the Clone Wars too, because while I don't think it's above the movies, it's done so much for the Star Wars media. That's why I put it in S tier. And the same can be said for episode 4. This did so much for the future of movies and Star Wars media, and it's hard to justify that being anything less than an S tier. I don't know. I think that's the better judgment call right there, because it set up so much. So yeah, I can't leave that in A tier. Episode 6 I think is perfectly fine in A tier. Rogue One, episode 3, Mandalorian, I think those are all good in A tier. The Clone Wars movie, I think it's a good B tier movie. I mean, it's enjoyable. You can sit through it and not lose your mind. Episode 1 is kind of on the B- scale, but I mean, I don't think it's just absolutely horrible. Rebels, I'm probably giving them more credit than I should. I think they actually had some mildly decent moments in the show with Kanan and admittedly Ahsoka. I will admit this. I'm not the biggest Ahsoka fan because they put her in literally everything, but whatever. The show had its kind of moments. If I had the decision to make it like a D+, I would. I didn't enjoy it though. Honestly, it had its cool moments, but I didn't enjoy the show at all. Like, I didn't like the art style. I wasn't a fan of the stories for the most part. The character direction was just boring. It was just a boring show. I didn't like it. It just felt so strange. And before anybody says, but they brought back Thrawn, dude, I don't care when they bring back characters. That doesn't define anything, in my opinion, for new Star Wars media, because it's not the same characters that I used to love in their original media. I don't care if they bring a Star Wars character back. That doesn't change anything for me. It's not gonna be the same character. Episode 7 B and C, that's fair. Episode 2, I feel like it'd probably be a D+. Not a great movie. The Battle of Geonosis is probably the best thing about that movie, and the Coruscant scenes. It's like a D+, C-. I'll give it that. It's on the, and for the record, I don't think Rebels is better than episode 2 per se, but in terms of its influence in the world of Star Wars, I think it's just not great. As far as movies, as a movie goes, and its influence, I don't think episode 2 is that great. I don't know. It's a weird spot. Judging shows versus movies is kind of hard to do. So, you know, F tier, absolutely justified. These movies sucked, and I haven't seen these two, and they don't really interest me, honestly. I heard Solo was decent. I don't know. I like the actors that they kind of chose for the movie, but they did not look like the original actors. I know it's hard to really make a new Lando and new Harrison Ford. You know, it's hard to make a good Billy D. Williams and a Harrison Ford 40-something years later from their original characters, their original actors. But I don't know. I don't know. Solo just never really piqued my interest, honestly. It just didn't. But maybe I'll give it a chance one day, and then I'll re-rank it afterwards. But I feel like this list is very justifiable. I feel like it's fair. So, yeah, we'll leave it at this. So, let me know what your thoughts are about this in the comment section below. I feel like my list was fair. I feel like I gave some decent points on why I liked each individual piece. It's kind of hard to explain that all in such a short video, why I hate this, why I hate that. But yeah, I think this is a fair listing in my opinion. Let me know what you thought about this video, guys. Be sure to leave a like on it and sub to the channel for more Star Wars and other gaming content. And as always, everybody, I will see you in the next video. And of course, with you all, peace.